Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm going to try and get in this one quick. I know I haven't put out a lot of videos over the last couple weeks, what with the holidays and a lot of focus on the Christmas Carol and other things going on. I've been a little bit lax in it, but I did get a lot of footage actually from the test server. So I'm going to be releasing some of those videos that I have looking at Tatura Rimehide and a couple of the epics as well, in case you had a chance to get her. Now, by now, if you've had the opportunity, you've gone ahead and fused Tatura Rimehide. She's a fantastic champion. Definitely somebody I hope you guys were able to get. And so what I want to do today is a quick video, well, it's not going to be quick because we're going to show Tatura in pretty much every area of the game, highlighting the ways that you can use her and how she can be really effective. I think she's going to be amazing in things like Doom Tower. Specifically, she's really good in spiders, surprisingly. Also, a solid champion for arena, especially arena defenses, for those of you that don't have platinum level accounts, which is most everybody, right? She's also going to be obviously very good in places like Hydra. She's very good in clan boss as well, though a little bit tricky, and you kind of need to navigate a couple things with her. So I want to try and showcase as much of that as I can for you guys. Now, it's not going to be perfect, and I went through a lot of this is old footage, so from the test server, I'm trying to kind of cobble it together to make something that's coherent for you guys so you can get a good sense of different ways to use her. This is by no means the best ways, right? I built her quickly, I built her well, but each area you use her in, you're going to want to specialize the gear that you put on her for that area. So if you're using her in Doom Tower, for example, or on Doom Tower bosses like Bomba, which I think she's great at, you're going to want to build her with more resistance than, say, if you built her in Arena, where you'd want to definitely maximize the accuracy level on her. Versus Clan Boss, where you don't need accuracy at all, you don't need resistance at all, you're just trying to maximize her damage capability as well as her defense and HP. So there's definitely some different ways that you can build her for different areas of the game. That includes the sets you use. She's going to be amazing in a Frost and Frostbite set when you're talking about things like Spider, Doom Tower, even Arena. Those are 100% the sets I would recommend using her with. But for Clan Boss, obviously that's not helpful. And for Hydra, that's not going to be helpful. So there's definitely different ways that you can build her out. But what I'm going to show you today is just kind of her in a variety of different areas, him, her, them in a variety of different areas, so that you have an understanding of, hey, this might be a way to use them. This would be the approach that I take. And hopefully that's going to be helpful for you guys for this new champion that many of you have now. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you do, subscribe, hit the like button and all that. But let's get into the video. All right, so this is how I have my Tatura built right now. Now, one thing you're going to notice, especially for like these showcase things, I have Tatura pretty slow, 172 speed. Maybe, I think in general, we want to be as fast as we can, but this is pretty solid. 359 accuracy is not an incredibly high number. This is really good for Doom Tower. This is a little light for end game Hydra stuff. Early game Hydra, this is way more than you need. So this is in general a pretty solid build. Not a lot of resistance. That wasn't my focus, but it's definitely something you can build on Tatura if that's you so choose. You'll notice I do have 100% crit rate. I do have good crit damage. Like I said, they hit really, really hard. So building that up is definitely beneficial. And then, 5,000 defense-based champion with lots of HP. The base stats on Tatura are exceedingly good. Look at that. 20,000 HP, 1,400 defense, 102 speed. Because there's such good base stats, it allows you to really pump those numbers up building this champion. Because remember, percentage is always based off of those base stats. So, that 40, very few champions can you do 50,000 HP, 55,000 defense, and still have damage in the comp. So Tatura has those abilities within her kit because she has such good base stats. And also you'll notice I have her in this freeze set, right? Now the Frostbite set, I should say. Basically what it does is it gives you an extra 10% chance to place freeze when attacked. And if we look at Tatura's skills, you'll notice there's a bit of synergy here. The passive ability, right? When attacked, reflects 30% of the damage this champion receives back to the attacker. That's always really good. Makes it very hard for people to heal up off killing or attacking her. And also 30% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the attacker for one turn. With that Frostbite set, that's basically a 50% chance. So you can see there is some benefit to putting a Frostbite or a Frost set on. There's definitely some, synergies going on there. Is it the best set? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. But it was just something I thought I'd try with, and I think actually proves pretty useful in this. Now, of course, the skills that Tatura brings, one of the most important ones is A3. Perfect Veil buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Also placing a shield on this ally. So she's going to shield himself. I don't know why I keep referring to her as her, but they're going to refreeze. They're going to shield themselves to prevent, damage coming in, because with Perfect Veil and everybody else, they're going to be the target of all the attacks. So making Tatura really tanky and beefy is going to be beneficial, especially in areas like, Doom Tower, and for Hydra, and for actually not Hydra so much, but Doom Tower definitely, and Arena definitely. You're going to get a lot of benefit out of that. Maybe even sacrificing some of the attack and damage, but because all those attacks are going to be coming towards Tatura, so being able to deal with that is really useful. Now, A2 here is, of course, the creme de la creme of skills. Block debuffs for 2 turns and increase defense for 2 turns, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown. This is really, really strong, guys. Now, the great part about this is this works really well for clan boss, and even though there's no decreased attack involved with this, so not quite as good as somebody like, say, a Sepulchre Sentinel as an all-in-one kind of kit, this is really, really strong. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, which is phenomenal. So if you're going to bring Tatura into clan boss, and I'll reiterate this later, you're going to want to prioritize this skill, because the whole key is blocking those G-buffs at the right time. That's how you say affinity friendly, right? So even though the other skills do damage, you're going to want to prioritize this one. And by doing that, you're making sure that your team's staying alive. You're having increased defense up and block debuffs up when you need it for the entirety of the fight, which is great. You don't need Perfect Veil. It's just a nice little bonus defensively. Same thing with the shield. But this does have an attack, this A3 skill. So it's still beneficial to use it. You're just not going to be able to time it as well. You could put everything on a 4-turn cooldown, right? You put it on a 4-3 ratio. That works well, or those 2-1 ratio teams. But in general, I would recommend focusing on this, because this is the hardest thing to find in this game, is block debuffs on a regular 3-turn cooldown. This is why this is such a great fusion for us. And then the A1 has a decreased accuracy debuff, right? 100% chance when booked, and it's a single target. So it's not super, super great, but it's still really good. This is a skill that's going to be really useful in Hydra, really useful in Doom Tower especially, right? This is a Bomba killer right here. Not only are we blocking the debuffs and increasing our defense, but we're also decreasing the accuracy of Bomba himself on the A1, which is really, really nice. And so it's just a really, really good ability right here. So in general, love the skills, love the kit overall, really nice. Now, as far as the masteries go, I did build out a basically, I don't know, an offensive nuking kind of skill. There's more of an arena build here, right? So let me see if I can't move myself around. Here, let me move myself over just a little bit. You guys can see we come down to Helm Smasher right here, right? We're trying to, get as much damage in as we can on those first hits and stuff. And then on the support side, we went with accuracy and to extend the debuffs. Is this the optimal build for everything? No, not at all. Depending on what you're using Tatura for, there's a lot of different ways to go. You don't even have to build damage on Tatura. You could build Tatura in a full-on support type of thing. You could take Tatura down the defensive tree, even come all the way down here to Fearsome Presence and try to get those freezes to happen even more often. There's a lot of different ways that you could build Tatura. A resistance build, an accuracy build, there's a million different ways. So this is not by any means the only way to go about doing this. It's just what I did for this, just to, showcase it. So let's go ahead. We're going to take Tatura. I think the first place I want to do is, I think, the most interesting spot. We're going to take Tatura into Arena. Now, this is not by any means like a meta combination, and it's not going to work for every team. But Tatura, because of the Perfect Veil, because of the block debuffs, because Tatura can hit hard and has that freeze ability, can be really good as like a defensive style champion for your team. Okay, and then we start talking about Arena, and this is maybe one of my favorite parts here. So you can see Tatura, right? We have pretty tanky build. Tatura in this kind of build is our damage dealer. I would not say is going to be the best damage dealer for Arena, right? Hits really hard, and for a defensive champion, is one of the hardest hitters in this game, but really not the focus of the kit, and can be a little bit hard to make as a nuker for you. If you're desperate, you don't have one, and you have somebody like a Sify on your team, you just need a defensive nuker, a really good option. I still prefer Solus, but I think Tatura is a nice, solid plan B for that. That said, one of the best parts is obviously the perfect veil, the freezes, the control that you can do. The big thing is being able to remove any perfect or any immunity gear from the enemy, right? And I think that's really important. But you can see here, we got the perfect veil out. Tatura is the one that's going to be hopefully freezing everybody. And you can see frost happens right there. Frost happens right there. Such a good control champion, right? Now, obviously, getting a team like this to work all the time is going to be impossible. The key is trying to make it work as much as you can, and that's going to be tricky. It's not easy to do, right? I had to build a lot of tanky champions around it, and this is definitely a slow team. I think he's going to be much better in something like an arena defense rather than arena offense, but by no means is this a meta champion for arena. By no means. Just, I think, fun. Could be a really cool option if you're, early, mid game, even late game, and you don't have a lot of great arena options. I think Tatura can be really good. I think would pair exceptionally well with a champion like Tormund, who, will, of course, you're trying to get as many freezes as possible. If you can get an HP burn champion out there with him, it could be really, really strong. I think pairs really well with a champion like Lady Kimmy, actually. Increases his accuracy, decreases the enemy's accuracy. He also puts the block debuff on himself. A really, really nice kit, I think, for this type of thing. I like him really well in a Frost set, in a Frostbite set. I feel like that combo is really good. Or all Frostbite works really well also. But just in general, I think a really, really quality champion there and somebody that will benefit you. So definitely, there's options here as far as ways to go. But, when he's freezing people, it is pretty massive. Pretty cool ability there to be able to do that. If you can get a block buffs champion out there with them like an Ugo, I think that works even better because then they can't, protect themselves from it. But you can see it's not fast. But it's effective, and he hits hard enough to take down the enemy. It's a slow grind though. If he's your only damage dealer, you definitely would benefit from having multiple champions that can do that for you. But I think this kind of just goes to show the kind of stuff that he can do for you, which is pretty cool. So kind of an interesting approach with like a more control style build here. On this one, we have definitely more of a damage dealing type of build as we try to go with a more damage focus. We're going to bring in Kymar, we're going to bring in Sify, we're going to make us fast, and we're going to go first and hopefully hit them hard, right? They have their hedgy there, not a big deal. We're going to try and go fast first here anyway. But you can see we get that nice sleep out, get the increased defense, and then the big hit right there. You can see very effective. They have a Tatura on their defense, actually. It's not going to matter for us. We froze their Tatura as it attacked us. And, we're going to take them out pretty quickly there. Another freeze goes on Kymar. And this is the benefits, right? We're able to get offense while still maintaining some semblance of defense in our champion. Now, like I said, I would not replace my Soulless with him, but obviously can be really good as a, attack nuker as well. Now, we're in here on a hard Bommel, and obviously this is stage 10. You saw Tatura just put up that decreased accuracy debuff. I think this is probably where Tatura is going to be the best for us as far as using this champion. Decreased accuracy, 100% chance on that A1 is massive. Now, it is a 2-turn duration, and we all know Bommel does take that extra turn. So you're going to want to make sure you have that extra the full 2-turn duration up before Bommel takes that double turn of his. But if you can do that, you can ensure that you're going to have decreased accuracy up for the entire fight. And that's huge in order to prevent those bombs from landing on your champions. Decreased accuracy is massive against Bommel, probably the most important debuff you can put out there. That's why champions like Whirl and Frostspring are so effective. And then, of course, Tatura's fabulous at that. Not to mention he's going to be strong affinity. The other benefit is he pairs exceedingly well with someone like Rector Drath. When Rector Drath has a passive ability that heals everybody with Perfect Veil up, well, it doesn't have to be Rector Drath's Perfect Veil, and Rector only does that like once every 4 turns, has that skill cooldown. So between her and Tatura, you're able to keep Perfect Veil up for the entire fight. That means you're able to keep healing on your allies for the entire fight, and that's a really massive ability. Not to mention brings that increased defense so you guys can stay alive a little bit longer, as well as that block debuff so you don't have to worry about getting stunned ever. Just a lot of really good skills there. And then the best part about it is, of course, Tatura hits hard, so you're getting everything that you could want. And you can see between Tatura and Rector Drath, we keep Perfect Veil up the full fight, and everybody's able to heal the whole time. And that's a really massive ability there. Now, even if you don't have a Rector Drath, Tatura is still going to be really good. You don't need that Perfect Veil. It helps reduce damage, though. So it is something that's going to be beneficial. It does reduce damage even from bombs, right? It's something that comes on top of it. So it's definitely a really good buff to have on your champions for this boss. The increased defense is helpful, even though it doesn't help you with the bombs. It's still good with the general damage that Bomba does. And the block debuffs, as I said, is going to be really good so you can avoid having those stuns hit you, and that's really massive. And of course, the decrease actually the most important part on that A1 skill. So obviously, the team I have in here is optimized to go against Bomba. And this is level 10, so it's not like the hardest thing, but it is on the hard difficulty, so it is going to be a little bit more difficult than some of you that are going through normal. And if you are, boy, Tatura is going to be great for you. Absolutely great. So definitely somebody I like. I'm going to be bringing in Tatura instead of Whirlim for my main team. I think this is just going to be a much better choice for me as far as dealing damage to the boss, in addition to landing that decreased accuracy consistently. I'm not going to be as reliant on having someone like a Vizier in there extend those buffs in order to make it so that this boss can be beaten. Okay, so this is a slightly different build, right? We've got a full frost and a frostbite set. So that's going to give us a 60% chance. 20 from the frostbite, or 20 from the frost and 10 from the frostbite, an extra 30% chance, so 60 total of getting that the freeze debuff in. Plus we also have this mastery down here, what's it called? This one, Fearsome Presence, and gives us an extra 5% chance from skills or artifacts. So that's really, if I'm not mistaken, that's like an extra 15% chance, because we have a frostbite and we got a frost and he's got his own ability. So it's a lot of extra chances there. I could be wrong. That could just be 5%. But regardless, we should be freezing the enemy a ton. Now, our total stats actually kind of went down a little bit, right? But we did bump our resistance. That's something I wanted to do so we can resist any debuffs that are placed on us. We still have 100% accuracy and we're a lot faster. So we're going to kind of give this a whirl and see how we fare here. Now, if we look at normal Doom Tower, actually, I should say hard Doom Tower, but we look at the waves themselves. Tatura is fabulous for this. I mean, really good. Has a great aura, so I can put him as lead and it works really well. I'm opting for Sify for this, but it does bring a really nice defensive aura for you. But in this build, I have them built in Frost and Frostbite set. So we're trying to get those freezes out and get control of the enemy. One of the big things with the waves in Doom Tower is control. When he puts that perfect veil up, guess who's going to get attacked? Him. Everybody else kind of gets avoided. Everybody targets him. And you can see we already have 2 people frozen out there from their AoEs and stuff, and we got another freeze right there. When you do that, all of a sudden you start controlling the waves completely. Now, the rest of this team is pretty solid. We're definitely keeping everybody we have damage dealing, so it's not going to be a real struggle for my team to get through this. But if you're in normal Doom Tower, if you're in hard Doom Tower, it doesn't really matter the difficulty. This can be an excellent way to get through some of those waves by, having everybody focus their attacks on you and then freezing them. You lock them out of their turns and allows your team to continually go over and over again, land your debuffs, prevent the enemy from doing the things that they want to do. And it can be really, really effective. On top of that, as we said, Tatura hits super hard. So not only is Tatura helping your team stay alive, but also bringing in the damage as well. So you're able to get through the waves a lot more efficiently. A really, really good option. Usually I go through and I have like my double crisp and I'm using provoke and stun. Those are the control options that I'm using. Tatura is really great in a slightly different way. That freeze, as you can see right there, hit Candrafon. Those freezes is another excellent way to go about it. It's a little bit more of a passive approach. But when you only have, maybe don't have a lot of control champions, Tatura can be a really good option for that. Especially when you get that perfect veil on everybody else, Tatura becomes the preferred target, or really the only target the enemy can hit. And so you start getting those freezes happening much more consistently. Now, it's not 100%, right? You're not going to control the enemy all the time, but it's going to be enough where it should be able to keep you alive. And then on top of that, the fact that Tatura reflex damage as a passive ability means that the enemy's not even going to really be able to heal up when they attack you, regardless of who it is. So it's a very good approach for control teams, I think. And to be able to get through these waves, you need control. Like, it's real important. Some of you can do like a seer nuke type of team, but if you don't have that ability, really control is the way to go, and Tatura is going to be fabulous for it. Now I want to show you guys something that I thought was pretty interesting. It's kind of this crazy concept I had, but I thought, why not bring Tatura into spiders, right? Because here's how it works. Perfect Veil means the only person that can get attacked is Tatura, right? That's who all the spiderlings are going to attack. And every time Tatura gets attacked, there's a high chance of getting frozen, especially with the Frostbite and the Frost Setter that I have on Tatura. It's a really high chance of getting frozen. So this is less of a damage build, more of a AoE control build. If you're really struggling with spider, this might be an excellent option for you, especially when combined with HP burn. And you can see it happen right now. We're getting freezes out there, we're getting HP burns out there, and yeah, Tatura's taking some damage, but if we can extend those buffs, see, I got the Mytha in there, which I think is actually a really nice champion to bring in for something like this. Or you can get a cleanser that, right? Like I don't even know, but somebody that can cleanse would be great. I also have here, a Crypt King Grawl. That's who I'm using to put the HP burn out. Now, I don't have to use Crypt King, right? I actually have I have so many extenders. I have 2 Demythas, a Godseeker, and Crypt King, right? So Crypt King gives me the HP burn. Tatura is just placing the perfect veil block debuff on himself so he can't get those poisons hit. He gets that nice shield as well from that AoE, from that A3 skill, so he kind of protects himself. And then the Demythas and the Godseekers are keeping that veil up on everybody, so the only person that's going to get hit is going to be Tatura. Now, obviously, this is not a team that everybody's going to be able to build, but this can work. Now, one of the things is, obviously, I have Crypt King who can freeze everybody. I'm not even using that right now. I'm relying solely on Tatura to keep the spiderlings in check. And I thought it was a really fun exercise of ways to potentially do this, and it's really effective. Keeps them down. Now, it's not a game-breaking run by any means. It is kind of long, but it works. We're able to keep the HP burn going. Don't have to worry about anybody else getting hit. Tatura's going to take all the attacks. And even if you don't have extenders like Demytha or Godseeker or Neri, that's okay too, because with that block debuff, you're still able to prevent the poisons from landing on most of your allies, and you're at least splitting the time that the spiderlings are attacking your champion. So you don't even need to have another tank, so to speak. You can probably get away with just using Tatura and having Tatura take the focus about half of the time, especially if you build Tatura fast, or you have speed boosters so that they're getting their turn over and over and over again. That can work really, really well for you. So there's always options as far as ways to go do this, and I think Tatura is kind of an interesting one to do this. Now, I would love to bring in a champion like a Chak with this to give us speed boost every time those freezes happen, give us healing every time those HP burns happen. There's a lot of different ways to go ahead and build this, and you can see the shield that Tatura puts up. It's massive. So, really, really strong champion for something like Spider, I think. So let's look at Hydra here with Tatura. Now, this is somewhere we all thought Tatura would be fantastic in, right? We got AoE Perfect Veil, we've got block debuffs. On top of that, she hits hard and brings an increased defense, brings that decreased accuracy, which can be really good. And I do think Tatura is very good for Hydra. Not as good as we thought, though. There's definitely some negatives about it. Now, when you talk about a champion that puts Perfect Veil on everybody else, like a Duchess, Duchess also doesn't veil herself, much like Tatura. And, normally, that's an issue. The thing is, Duchess doesn't have to fear herself, because when she puts Perfect Veil on her allies, that's not an attack. Unfortunately for Tatura, when Tatura uses her A2 skill, and I have this on 2x speed because, Hydra's always a long run and I'm manualing everything, but you'll see when Tatura puts up the Perfect Veil, it's an AoE attack. The A3 is a big AoE attack, which is a good skill, but the problem is you're still hitting that Head of Torment. So you're still getting feared while you're putting up the Perfect Veil on everybody. That makes it much less useful for us. And that is a bit of an issue. You can see we have that true fear on ourselves, even with the Perfect Veil on everybody else. And that's just problematic, right? There are ways to get around this though. Right here, I use the A2 skill. I would actually advise not doing that. Use the A1 there. That way you can burn through that true fear. You can target somebody else besides that Head of Torment. And if the true fear procs, that's fine. You miss one attack. That's not a big thing. The buffs are a much bigger thing, because then your next turn you can go ahead and place that Perfect Veil, or you can place the block debuffs and the increased defense buff. On the other hand, you could just turn that skill off, right? If you don't need block debuffs, if you don't want that increased defense buff, that's fine, right? I'm using Krisk as a mischief target, a high resistance target, so the buffs don't get stolen. If that's not the case, the last thing you want is block debuffs out there, because then you can't land your debuffs when that gets stolen. So maybe you just skip that skill and you just rely on the AoE Perfect Veil, and you just make sure that when that skill's available, you try not to hit the Head of Torment before that, so you don't get True Feared. But that is the negative, right? Right there again, we put up the Perfect Veil and we get True Feared. That's going to be an issue you're going to have to deal with. There's other ways to do it. Obviously, you can use champions like Infernal Baroness, place a Perfect Veil on Tatura, and so, you know, you have an alternate way to get Perfect Veil on. You can bring in champions like I'm doing here, bringing in Godseeker, bringing in Krisk to go ahead and to help extend that Perfect Veil so it stays on our allies even longer. That's one of the ways I've been finding a lot of success with champions like Duchess. They're 2-turn durations, same thing as Tatura, and same thing as Rector Drath, who actually I use. I don't have Duchess. But you can extend those buffs with Krisk, with Godseeker, so that that Perfect Veil stays on your allies for basically the entire fight. I've been finding a lot of success at that myself. But obviously not everybody has a Krisk, not everybody has a Godseeker or Neri. There are buff extenders out there that can be really good for that, but you know, it's gonna be a hard road. But Hydra's really hard. It's got some issues with it anyway, so I wouldn't trip too much about that any way you slice it. The good thing is Tatura is good, is very useful for this, and if you don't have a Duchess, you don't have a Rector Drath, can be a really nice option for you to help keep your champions from getting True Feared. Even if it's not 100% all the time, every little bit does help, and I think Tatura is an excellent champion for this. Definitely somebody that you will be happy to bring into Hydra, because it's going to be really effective for you. Okay, so I actually built a team using Tatura, and I kind of did a dumb thing and totally forgot. Now, here's one of the interesting things about Tatura's skills, right? That Perfect Veil, we all know, for Clan Boss specifically, right? For Clan Boss specifically, Tatura's skill, this is a 4-turn cooldown for the Perfect Veil. Anytime you have champions with a skill on a 4-turn cooldown and a skill on a 3-turn cooldown, if you want both those skills used every time and you prioritize them, what's going to end up happening is the 4-turn cooldown skill is going to gate the timing of the other skill. Basically, if this happens every 4 turns, then this is going to happen every 4 turns as well. Because if you think about it, let's say we use this skill. 3 turns later, both abilities are up. If we want them both to be used every turn, we have to prioritize the 4-turn skill. And so that'll happen first, which means this skill will always happen after that 4 turns cooldown skill. Always. So what that means is for this build, we're going to have to place the Perfect Veil first, and then we're going to block the debuffs. Well, this is great if we're facing Void and we're just worried about the stun. If we're worried about the other debuffs, however, that's not going to help us out very much. And you'll see this as we go into this run. It's frustrating. It's just not going to work that great. For Void, it's going to be perfect, though. Not only are we going to have Perfect Veil up on all the champions we should, but we're going to have block debuffs on them for the stun. But if we were facing a Spirit Affinity team, anything other than Void, in fact, we'd be in a lot of trouble, and it wouldn't work out very well for us at all. So that's kind of the consideration you need to make when it comes to this, is that we're going to be, really good shape when we're facing Void. Otherwise, we're not. So you can see Perfect Veil is up on everybody, right? And now we're going to go ahead and put the block debuffs up. But those skills, unfortunately, don't work in reverse. This is the only issue here. So as long as you understand that, it'll work fine. If you're facing Spirit Affinity, though, because you need that block debuff to happen at a very particular time, and chances are you're going to still want the Perfect Veil for the stun, you're going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to either decide, okay, we don't care about the veil and we're not going to be able to target when debuffs are when who's getting the stun or not, or we're not going to worry about the debuffs from the boss. You got to choose one or the other. So because of that, we're going to worry about, for this, we're Void. So we're going to put the Perfect Veil up between the AoEs, and we'll put up the block debuffs before the stun. So there you go. You see the Perfect Veil just went up between the AoEs, and now we're going to put up the block debuffs and the increased defense buff, and that'll help us for the stun. So that's kind of the trade-off there, and I think this works great for Void. For Spirit, we'd either make everything 1 turn earlier, so we're blocking the debuffs along the way, so we're not getting the decreased speed and we're staying in sync. But if we did that, we'd have to make sure to bring a cleanser, or we'd have to bring in somebody to target the stun and make sure that they have the block debuffs up on themselves, which can be a bit of a challenge, obviously. So that's kind of the balance here. But More importantly, you can see the damage that we're doing from Tatura. 100,000 every single time, pretty much with her hits. She hits very, very hard. And she's a really, really good champion. If you have a counterattack team in, that's really great too, because you're getting extra attacks in. The shield from that hit is pretty significant, right? It's a portion of the damage she deals, and she deals a lot of damage. So it's a pretty hefty shield she's putting up on herself when she does place that veil. So if you can time it so the perfect veil goes up right before the stun, that's even better, because you're going to have that big shield for that stun attack, which is great. But because of this, we're able to have increased defense up pretty much for the entire fight. Now, obviously, I could build a better team that's a little bit more, designed to work well. We're bringing Grush for the healing with the Leech, but that because of Grush and Martyr, they're not perfect decrease attack champions, so we're kind of missing out on that a little bit. But we have Geomancer in there, so hopefully we're able to keep enough damage up where it doesn't really matter. We're doing almost 1 million a turn, which is pretty significant, I'd say. In general, it's a very solid team and has a lot of potential to it, so I figured that's something that you guys might all enjoy to watch. So I'll take myself off screen. You can kind of see the results afterwards. We'll just jump to the end here and you can see what we do. There you go, 28.89 million. You can see Tatura's doing the same kind of damage as Martyr. Really hard hitter, excellent champion. Not much to ask for. Well, that's Tatura Rimehide everywhere, literally everywhere. Hydra, Clan Boss, Dungeons, Doom Tower, Bomba, even an Arena. You can see very successful champion no matter where you use them. So hopefully you fused them, and if you did, congratulations, you got a top tier legendary champion on your account. That's going to be the video today. Hopefully you liked it and enjoyed it. If so, hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell so you know when my next video comes out, because I don't come out every single day. So wait for the next one, have the notification so you know when that is. And yeah, till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.